The Money Desk now, where we have my colleague and business editor, Devin Murugan. So, Devin, the government and the public servants, they don't seem to be meeting eye to eye. So, should we be expecting a shutdown soon?
Yeah, I mean, there's been talk for the last few weeks about, the impending strike action. I think behind the scenes has been some sort of a wish that maybe that 3% offer and that cut of that gratuity payment, remember, that comes to an end in March next year. That's been the sticky point, really. Okay. And there were hopes that perhaps maybe there could be some sort of movement on that. But there seems to be a very sort of stubborn stance on both sides. And it looks likely, as more unions get on board, that we could eventually see that. At what point? Well, that's what we're going to find out this afternoon. So wage talks, as you say, Maseko, between the public sector unions and government remain deadlocked. The Public Servants Association, representing just more than 230,000 workers, will embark on a one-day stay-away on Thursday. Last week, 4 other unions, Denosa, Nehawu, POPCRU and HOSPERSA, were issued with strike certificates, but they are yet to notify government of any plan to strike. I want to bring in the PSA's Claude Naiker for more on the PSA's position. Claude, thanks very much indeed for talking to us. So first of all, have there been any continuing discussions between the stakeholders in these wage talks over the weekend in attempt to remedy the past? What was the weekend like?
Well, good afternoon to you, Devin. Thank you for having me. Nothing on the table as yet. There hasn't been any movement from the employee side. There's been unofficial stances, statements being made, but nothing concrete. And if anything has to fly, it has to be presented to the bargaining chamber, where formal discussions will have to take place. And if there's an agreement, it has to be tabled at the PSCBC. But over the weekend and today, nothing as concrete has come out from the employers' side. We began our program of action on the 3rd of November with lunchtime picketing. This Thursday, as you quite rightly pointed out, there will be a massive march in all provinces throughout the country of all PSA members. Thereafter, we'll continue with our picketing action leading up to a full-blown strike action. If there's no settlement on the impasse, we will assess the situation on a day-to-day basis and then decide how we're going to continue with our action, be it on the picketing line, stayaways, or marches throughout the country as we predicted.
I want to get into the magnitude of a possible shutdown in a moment, but let's just revisit very quickly where we are with the dispute. Because the main sticking point here, as I understand it, is the actual increase of 3%. That's the formal offer that came from the employer, which is the government. And, of course, that 1,000 Rand gratuity payment, which ends in March. That's the sort of cornerstone of where the disagreement lies, all right? As far as the wage is concerned, the PSA and perhaps other unions as well want it closer to inflation. And as it stands, there just seems to be no movement on either of those issues, formally, I would imagine.
Yes, quite rightly. You must recall when we started off our process, the demand was 10%. At that stage, the employer was 1.5%, then upped its offer to 2%. We lowered our demand to around 6.5%, and currently what's on the table is a 3%, coupled with the cash gratuity, as you pointed out. I think the sticking point is that the cash gratuity falls away on the 31st of March 2023. So why are we concerned about this? You will recall in 2020, public servants did not get a salary increase at all. And as a stopgap measure and as a severe compromise, we agreed on a cash gratuity for 2021. In that agreement last year, we also outlined that in the event that we don't sign an agreement this year, or if there's a delay in salary negotiations, that cash gratuity will continue. Well, government kept to that promise and the cash gratuity is currently being paid. However, we are concerned about next year. Should there be no increases, or if there's no tangible increase coming from the employer, or if negotiations are delayed like we see this year, we don't want the cash gratuity to stop. We want the cash gratuity to continue until such time we reach an agreement next year. This is simply because employers will not be out of pocket if there's a delay in negotiations or alternatively, if there's no tangible offer coming from the employee. Unfortunately, the 3% and the cash gratuity is in a single package. Even if we agree on the 3%, the sticking point is still the cash gratuity. So unfortunately, it's neither here or there. And until the employee comes back with a better offer or can protect that cash gratuity going to next year, I think we will continue with our mass action.
Right. Let's talk about what's happening on Thursday. Government offices going to be impacted. I mean, I understand it to be largely sort of those offices around the home affairs related departments. Exactly who and how many people will be involved in the stay away? What would be impacted?
Service departments are definitely going to be affected. And in most of the government service departments, the PSA represents a majority of employees. So if you take Department of Home Affairs, it'll definitely be affected with regard to passport, IDs, and so forth. Then we look at Department of Transport, those transport departments that are responsible for motor licensing and driver's license. Our employees will definitely be on the march. Then we look at the Department of Employment and Labor. We look at labor inspectors that are responsible for enforcing OHS matters. They definitely will be affected. Our borders, immigration officers, they definitely will also be participating in the march come on Thursday. So a lot of other government, Department of Forestry and Fisheries, Environmental Affairs, those conducting inspections at the ports, they definitely will be affected on Thursday. Once Thursday is through, we will continue with our picketing action on during the lunch breaks, and then we'll assess the situation leading up to a full-blown strike action in the form of a stay away.
Yeah, that was my next question, because I wanted to find out what is the strategy now, just going forward. Would it just be lunchtime pickets, a stay away here or there? And at what point are we likely to see a full-blown stay away and strike if that happens?
Well, what happens is that on Thursday, culminating with our marches to the various key points where, if you look at in Pretoria to Union Building, we'll be handing a memorandum to the president and obviously representatives of his department or cabinet in various provinces. In our memorandum, it'll be outlined that we've given the government 7 days to come up with a solution to break this impasse. So we will retreat for the 7 days. We won't do anything in the form of a march or full-blown strike. We will continue with our picketing process. If nothing comes off the 7 days or after the 7 days have expired, then we'll assess the situation, and we definitely will continue with our mass action in the form of a stay away and more marches throughout the provinces. As I said, we will assess each province. We have a strike plan in place. We will assess each province as the information comes through as to how the stay away and the marches have progressed.
Yeah. And as I let you go, Claude, just very quickly, I mean, there was some talk about it a few days ago, just a possible synergy between the PSA and perhaps those COSATU-related unions that have been given permission to strike, Denosa, the likes of Nehawu, POPCRU as well. What sort of communication do you guys have between your two to sort of follow each other on this one? How separate or unifying that is at this stage?
Yeah, there's definitely talks between the various unions. We are very united as far as labor is concerned. It's just a practical issue where some of the other unions have declared a dispute later than the PSA. Their mandating process obviously follows a different course. We respect that decision for them to mandate their process, but all other parties have indicated the support for the PSA, and once their strike notices have expired, they definitely will be joining the PSA in various marches and stayaways or whatever action that we propose on the day.
Claude Naiker from the Public Servants Association, thanks very much indeed for your time.